Hi guys, it's Debbie. When speaking of interest in less known films, some of you commented under my videos recommending the film The Place Beyond the Pines, directed by Derek Cianfrance and starring Bradley Cooper, Ryan Gosling, Mahershala and Mendes. I'd often heard about this film but I'd never even seen the trailer, so I found it on Netflix and decided to watch it. And turns out it was exactly the kind of film I was looking for. Now I'm going to try and not reveal anything too important about the plot to not spoil anything. The Place Beyond the Pines follows two different stories. The first is that of Luke Glanton, portrayed by Ryan Gosling. In very simple and spoiler-free words, he is a stuntman motorcyclist which has an on and off relationship with Romina, Eva Mendes, from which he has a child. His situation becomes tougher every day as he can't provide a stable income for himself, let alone for anybody else. Romina also starts dating another man and he starts hanging out with the wrong people, especially Robin, portrayed by Ben Mendelsohn. So eventually his hot temper and his economic issues lead him to make the wrong life choices. The second story that is portrayed in the film follows the life of a police officer portrayed by Bradley Cooper. Again, in very cautious words, he is also caught in a series of sticky and unpleasant situations concerning his job, and struggles to remain the valuable man he had promised himself and his family to be. The film shows how these two very different lives somehow tie in with one another, and how they both deal with somewhat similar situations and aspirations, the conflicts with their ideals and their aspirations to be a good role model for their growing children. As I was saying before, I absolutely loved The Place Beyond the Pines. I found it a beautiful depiction of how we can easily stray on the wrong path, regardless of our good moral goals, of how some people will not stop when it comes to emotions and proving something to their loved or hated ones. This idea of a lingering darkness at hand's reach is brought on screen through the concepts of criminality, violence, hatred, but also through the idea of a make-believe wholesomeness and toothy smiles that hide a grim background. The two main characters are the perfect embodiment of this film's main themes, but also all the other characters in the film have a somewhat debatable attitude or carry out controversial actions. So in general it is an analysis of actions and consequences on a larger scheme, but set in this small town of Schenectady, which roughly translates to Beyond the Pines, with this wonderful but eerie soundtrack which highlights the happy moments but drags us down in the darkest ones. I loved Ryan Gosling's performance here. If you're familiar with him from more jolly romantic roles such as in La La Land, his acting here in Place Beyond the Pines will absolutely win you over. He perfectly embodied his character's desperate aspirations, his dreams of proving he can be somebody, he can be a good role model, a good family leader and father. But he also proves how his young spirit, his hot temper and his past easily lead him onto the wrong path. Now in reality we don't know much about his past, we just assume based on his appearance and his attitude. And I know we shouldn't be assuming, but the fact that the film allows us to think this without showing any of it proves that there is an excellent introduction of the character. On the contrary to Ryan Gosling's performance, I was really let down by Bradley Cooper's. I've always enjoyed him as an actor, but there was something missing here, especially towards the end when emotions were running high and he just didn't keep up to the pace. There are many other famous faces in the film of the likes of Dane, Dehaan or Byrne, and although they are background characters, in my opinion, they did a much better job than Cooper here. When looking at this film's cinematography, it is really impressive. The colour palette and the use of stylistic elements is very interesting. With Luke always introduced as this mysterious night-dwelling, leather-clad rebel, the environment in which he moves about is modern but also cheap and decaying, while Officer Avery's background is always prosperous, with a happy colour palette in the shades of light blue and white. And this image of a perfect family remains until his role starts to brush that line between what is right and what is wrong, and the setting immediately cracks and starts to resemble Luke's. The Place Beyond the Pines is the kind of film that, if done wrong, can become a super fancy, artsy, empty, cliche-filmed movie. Instead, everything here was perfectly executed. It is a raw and tragic story, but which also shows the loving and good side of its characters. It's engaging, thought-provoking, visually beautiful. It is a poem about life. It's a drama, it's a love story, it has nerve-wracking thriller elements, and it is far from predictable. I would recommend The Place Beyond the Pines if you liked films such as Mystic River, Prisoners, where boundaries tend to be pushed, even in common situations. Let me know if you saw The Place Beyond the Pines and what you thought about it, and if you have any other good movie recommendations, please leave them in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to subscribe for more movie related content, and I'll see you soon. Bye!